Hi, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Spotlight Chats. It is my great pleasure to welcome today Professor Patrick Couvreur from the University Paris-Saclay. Professor Couvreur, Patrick, thank you so much for joining us today. As I said, professor of pharmacy at the University of Paris-Saclay, and he himself will tell us a little bit more about what his group does, what his research lines are, and so on. So thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank you very much for inviting me for chat with you.
Thank you. So yeah, just to get us started, could you tell me a little bit more about the current lines of research that your group is carrying out in Paris?
Yes, of course. During a long time, during my period, as you know, probably I developed the first biodegradable nanoparticles based on the polyalkyl cyanoacrylate for application in oncology, leading also to clinical trials for the hepatocarcinoma. And unfortunately, I realized that the encapsulation in terms of loading, of drug loading, was generally very low. Just because in general, when you're encapsulating a drug into a liposome, a polymer nanoparticles, a polymer micelles, you are using physical encapsulation processes. This means, of course, encapsulation, surface absorption, entrapment, etc., etc. And this is leading to two very important limitations. The first one is that you have a poor drug loading, which is very, very important. In general, if you are looking to the literature, only a few percent. This means if you have 2% loading, this means you have always to inject 50 times more of the material, of the transporter material than the drug. And you are immediately facing a toxicological issue, of course. And the second problem is the burst release, because for thermodynamic reasons, of course, the drug is absorbed at the surface of the nanoparticles and immediately released after intravenous administration. And so the idea, we had to overcome those problems, and we obtained an ERC for that, was to move from the physical encapsulation paradigm to the chemical encapsulation paradigm. In other words, to do chemistry instead of physics. And the idea we had was to link, in fact, a lipid, the squalene, which is, as you know, a biocompatible lipid that we have all in our body, especially at the level of the skin. And very amazingly, this lipid adopt a folded conformation, a compact molecular conformation in water. And we have taken advantage of this compact conformation of the squalene into water to link a lot of drugs to the squalene. And by supramolecular chemistry, we have observed that after putting those prodrugs, those bioconjugates into water, we got nanoparticles by self-assemblage. And of course, the drug loading is much higher than after a physical encapsulation process, because each molecule of squalene taken as a transporter material can transport at least, even more, molecules, depending on the chemistry, but at least one molecule of the drug. And the second advantage is that you can design a chemical link which will be stimuli sensitive to enzymes or to a pH or to what else, which is specific of the target cells or tissues. And this is the so-called squalenylation technology. So this is what we are doing at the moment, and especially there are two very big applications. The first is still the oncology, because this is my main field of research since the beginning of my career. But also now with Cinda Lepêtre, an associate professor at Paris-Saclay University, we are developing a new approach by using squalene linked with neuropeptides to treat pain, because you know that the treatment of pain is a very big medical challenge, because morphine, opioid derivatives, etc., are inducing always addiction, tolerance, in addition, of course, to the antinociceptive effects. So what is
Wow.
actually what I am still doing?
No, but it's very interesting and quite fascinating to see how you came from a very obviously starting point of this whole field that we work on, and faced the challenges and then found a way to overcome them. So that's really interesting. And so obviously we are here today to talk about your Founders Award of CRS, and congratulations again on that. But before we talk about the award in specific, I wanted to ask you, so how did you get involved with CRS in the first time? And what I usually ask my guests is, what brought you in and what made you stay?
Yes, I did some archaeological research to see what I did in collaboration or in relation with the Control Release Society. So it started, in fact, in 1885. In 1985, it was that Congress in Geneva. It was one of the first Congress organized by the Control Release Society. And this was organized by Nick Pepas, by Professor Pepas, who was at that time, if I well remember, an invited professor at Geneva University. And we knew one another. And I was invited as a plenary speaker. And I was just in 85, just becoming professor. I was 35 years old in Paris Sud University at that time. So I was very proud to be one of the three plenary speakers together with Christian de Duve. And this was very interesting for me. I will speak about that later probably, because Christian de Duve was the last Nobel Prize of Medicine in Belgium, because I originated from Belgium, and he discovered the lysosomes. And you know that the lysosomes, of course, are very important after engulfment of the nanoparticles or the nanocarriers by the cells. So this was the first relation I had with the Control Release Society. Then I became a member of the board of governors. I couldn't remember exactly what was the date. In 1990, I received the Young Investigator Award at the annual symposium in USA in Reno. And then I organized, this was a big step, I think a very important step for me, because it was a big organization. In 2000, I organized the annual meeting in Paris, co-chaired with my very good friend Shimon Benita from the University of Jerusalem. And there was at that moment over 2,000 people attending this Congress.
Wow.
I am not sure that it was only for the scientific program that I organized, probably also because Paris is a very nice city. But anyhow, it was of course a very important relation I had with the country, and a lot of work, of course.
Yeah.
Then I remember also in 2019, I don't know if you were at this Congress in Spain, in Valencia.
Yeah.
And at that time, there was the Star Collide.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
And I don't know if it was the first time or the second time. It was really a fight with Kinam Park.
Yes.
A friendly fight, of course, because Kinam was suspected that, you know, the nanomedicine, the nanotechnologies for drug delivery will be decreasing over time in terms of interest, in terms of application, etc. And of course, I was there to defend the nanomedicine. And one argument I had at that time was that the patisiran, you know, was just coming on the market for the treatment of this terrible transthyretin neuropathy. And this was with those lipid ionizable nanoparticles. And so I said, you know, that is a very interesting technology. There are other technologies, of course, so I defended that. And it was quite amazing that the just the year after, in 2020, the vaccination of the COVID who saved the world.
Yeah.
We can say that was due, of course, to the chemical modification of the messenger RNA of the S protein, but it was also because this very fragile molecule was encapsulated into those lipid nanoparticles. And now I am honored to receive the Founder Award, and of course I am very happy. I can also add that I participated to a lot of CRS local chapters. If I well remember one, it was the Spanish local chapter with Maria José Alonso at that time, but it was a long time ago in the Canary, you know.
Yeah.
If my memory is good. Another one was in Israel, more recently, organized by Shimon Benita, Dan Per, etc., etc. And also still, it was in 2019 or 18, there was this Portuguese, Spanish local chapter, which was organized in Porto or something like that.
Yes, I think it was.
Or
I think it was
Coimbra or
2018.
Porto.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see,
Very
it's a
good.
long story with the Control Release Society.
I think it's a true founders award because you were there in the beginning of CRS, so that's what makes the name. So I mean, this leads us necessarily to the next question, which is, would you say that being part of CRS has impacted your career and research, and how?
Yes, it's difficult to answer this question because, of course, CRS is one of the major congress in the field of the drug delivery, control release, nanomedicine, drug targeting, etc., etc. And certainly it has impacted my career because it is the opportunity to create network, to find also, and this is very important, to find very good PhD students coming from abroad or postdoctoral fellows. And you can do that at the occasion of such CRS. So you can start also new collaboration with colleagues that you didn't know who are doing something that you need to continue some research, to get also new scientific ideas, of course. But this is also true for other international congresses, because of course there are other congresses like ABGI, like CLINAM, etc., which are very useful too. So, but I am convinced still that traveling is very important. You know that actually there is, probably I will speak about that later on, there is some fight against the people who are traveling to attend congresses because of the climate.
Yeah.
But I think that you cannot do science if you have no international exchange. Video conference is okay, but when you have not the direct contact with the people, discuss in front of a poster or answer questions after a presentation, of course, it's better.
No, of course, I agree. So, and in terms of this particular moment in your career and the award, what does it mean to you to receive the Founders Award? What is the significance to your career at this point?
Of course, first of all, I am very happy because I know that my colleague Maria Teresa Peraccia and also Maria José Alonso and other friends have nominated me and pushing my nomination, and it is one of the highest recognition in the drug delivery field, probably with the Host-Madsen Medal of the International Federation, FIP, International Federation of Pharmaceutical Science, and it rewards a career achievement. So of course, I am very happy, very honored about that. And this gives me the opportunity to see once again my best friends in Bologna.
Yes, that is very good. And I mean, I cannot stress enough how richly deserving you are of this award. I think for people like myself who have started our journeys in the nanomedicine field and in drug delivery about, I don't even know, but maybe less than 15 years ago. But we've all heard talk about Professor Couvreur and all your achievements, and
You are too
it's
kind.
no, but it is really nice, and I think I've talked about this with other people in these spotlight chats. Is I think it's the magic, a little bit the magic of CRS, is that you get to meet these people that you've heard about for so long, or you've read their papers and you know their achievements. So it's going to be great to also see you in Bologna.
Thank you so much.
And so in terms of the Founders Award, something I've looked at, and I'm sure you know about this. In terms of women that received this award, I believe it's still Maria Jose is still the only woman who has received the Founders Award, or almost the only one. But in particular, often early career researchers, particularly women, but also from other less represented groups, feel a bit undeserving of awards that are given out by large societies, such as the CRS. We think it's such a big honor and such a big achievement, and therefore we do not self-nominate a lot. So what do you think as a community we can do to encourage those self-nominations from less represented researchers or groups?
Yeah, it's a complicated question to answer, as you know. I feel less comfortable than speaking science.
Yeah, I know.
But I know the problem. But I think that the things in general, I am not only speaking about the control release, but the things in general are going in a better direction, in a good direction. First of all, I look to the program of the Control Release Society for Bologna, and I see that at the opening ceremony, we will have 4 awards, 2 men and 2 women. So it's not bad, but you have right. I looked also to the Founders Awards, and I see that indeed there was less women who were the winner of the Founders Award. But also I would say that if you are looking decades ago, there was also less women involved in science. But I think that now it will be improved in general. Why? Because probably you know that I was the chair of the ERC panel, LS7, for consolidator grants, just for essentially medicine. Of course, it is not for all disciplines, but at least for medicine. And in general, there was only 25 or 1/3 of the women who got the possibility to run RSC grants, which is lower than the number of the men, of course.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of discussions together with the other panel chairs, and we counted also the number of women who applied. And if you are looking to the success rates, you see that at least in the LS7 panel, the women were a little bit best than the men. A little bit. I don't know if it was really significant from a statistical point of view, but no less, for sure. And so the problem is that, of course, we cannot, of course, change the volunty of the woman to apply. This is a matter everybody has to choose. And I remember also, I can tell you that when I was considering to be replaced, when my mandate was terminated as head of the institute in Paris-Sud, Paris-Saclay University, I suspected a woman could replace me. And I asked, I will not give you a name, but I asked to one of my colleagues, my collaborators, who was a very, very good scientist. She was a woman, and she didn't accept. She told me, I have other goals at the moment. It is a very heavy task. You have also to accept that.
Of course.
And I have 2 doctors, and also great children who are women. And I know that the goals are not necessarily the same, and we have to let the freedom. But no, we have still to improve, of course. And I can tell you that, for instance, in France, you know, I am at the Academy of Science.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Academy of Science, we decided that in the shortlist of the people for the elections, we are obliged that to the shortlist, this means 4 names, we are obliged to have at least 1 name of woman before the discussion, etc., etc. So it's good. We increased the number of women who were elected at the Academy of Science. And also, you know that in France, we have specific awards only for women. So in that case, you know that you will have 100 women who will get the award. It is the Irène Joliot-Curie Prize, which was established in 2009, something like that. And also a very, very big prize. You can see that in the airport, etc. It is the L'Oréal UNESCO for Women in Science Awards. This was already an award established in 1998. So you see that already at that time, the people were thinking to that. But I would like, this is for the woman. I cannot do more, say more about that. But it's, I think that the tendency is
improving,
better than before. Now, I would like not to forget the young people, because I was very invested in the with the young people as a former director of a very important and pluridisciplinary doctoral school on therapeutic innovation at Paris-Saclay University. And I was always very motivated by the promotion of the young researchers. And I think, once again, that it is very important to encourage them to travel during their thesis. I know that in a lot of countries or laboratories, the young people have not the opportunity to travel. And I have established a rule that when I was a director of the institute, that for a PhD student, at least once during the PhD, they are obliged to attend to an international congress in English, abroad, and to present their research or what they are doing for their thesis. So I think that also it is very important to have some mentoring of young people and to spend time to discuss with the young people, to give to have some mentorship programs, to guide those young researchers, to give them motivation, and to, in general, to encourage early career researchers. So this is, in my opinion, very important.
I agree. I agree. And I think
women also, but also for men.
No, definitely, definitely for early career researchers in general. And I think what you mentioned about mentoring is really important. And it's really key that we have good mentors, but also people who advocate for us and encourage us to also go for those awards and go for the next steps in our career. It's really, really key. So just before we wrap up, if you would have to choose, look back into your career and have to choose 2-3 people that really had or that inspired your journey and contributed to your achievements, who would those 2 or 3 people be? I'm sure it's difficult to choose 2 or 3, but
yes, I would say I have 3 people who have influenced importantly, very importantly, my career. The first one was Michel Rolland. Unfortunately, he died. All those 3 people died already, which is really a pity because, of course, they would be very old now. But the first one was Michel Rolland. Michel Rolland was the director of my thesis. at the University of Louvain, you know, in Belgium.
Yeah.
And at that time, the title of my thesis was tablets disintegration, tablets containing starch.
Okay.
And I was measuring the swelling of the starch, the porosity on the tablets, and to understand a little bit, it was already not control release, but release of the drug. What is the mechanism of the tablets disintegration? So I was doing that. There was some physics, physicochemistry, etc., etc. But very close to my laboratory was, and Michel Roland, you know, was a very humble professor, I would say, but very, very clever, very intelligent, very interested by new perspective, etc., etc., in the field of the pharmacy, and he gave me a lot of freedom to do what I was willing to do. And also he learned me how to speak in public, to give lectures. He made repetition with me incredible. So this was certainly my first mentor, but very close to my small laboratory, because, you know, at that time, the pharmaceutical technology was considering as a sub-discipline, you know, under-discipline, I would say, because it was technical, etc. Yeah. And I was some contacts with the people from the institute, the big institute of cellular and molecular biology, which was headed at that time by Christian de Duve, who was Nobel Prize. And I discussed with those people. They told me, you know, that you are a pharmacist, you are working on tableting, but everybody knows what is a tablet. Why not to find mini tablets to enter into cells and to deliver drugs into cells, because we cannot do that. And we have a lot of molecules that we have developed, very efficient, I would say, at the molecular level. But after incubating with cells, it's not working from a pharmacological point of view, because those molecules are not entering into cells. And I say that is a very clever idea for a pharmacist, you know, to formulate some mini pills, nano pills at that time, but mini pills to allow drugs to enter into the cells. And by chance, I went to a congress, you know, again, to travel is important, in France, in Lille. And there was a meeting. And in that meeting, the third person, which was important in my career, was Peter Speiser. And he gave a lecture, you know, on the use of nanopills. At that time, he was speaking not nanoparticles, but nanopills, something like that. But it was for vaccination at that time, to induce the release of antigens after intramuscular administration. And I went to Peter Speiser, and I told him, I am very interested by working with you, by doing a postdoctoral stay. At that time, it was very rare to come in your lab, at least. And we could organize a collaboration with Professor de Duve. I will take some anti-cancer molecules from the Duve lab, encapsulate into your nanocapsules, and look if we can induce entering those molecules better into the cells. And he told me, that's a good idea. And, you know, collaboration with the Duve, it was okay. And I went to the ETH, Genossische Technik Hochschule, in Speiser's lab, where Kreuter was there at that moment, you see. And I started to encapsulate actinomycin D, I remember, vinblastine, vincristine, doxorubicin, etc., major anti-cancer compounds, but in fact it was not working. Why? Because to prepare the nanocapsules of Peter Speiser's, it was acrylamide, non-biodegradable nanoparticles, of course, and to induce the polymerization of the monomers, we need to irradiate the monomers with gamma irradiation, gamma Bestrahlung. The problem is that the gamma irradiation was destroying always the molecules. So I looked to a book, what is a molecule which could be resistant to the gamma radiation? And I found it was fluorescein. It was not a drug, but it was a fluorescent marker. Interesting because you could follow, of course, the fluorescein intracellularly, and fluorescein was not entering into the cells.
Oh.
Non-diffusible intracellularly. And so I succeeded to make the encapsulation. I went back to the University of Louvain with the cell cultures that at that time in my lab, we didn't have any cell culture, but I went to the Deduve big group. I did cell culture experiments. After putting fluorescein free, you cannot see nothing at the fluorescent microscope because fluorescein is not entering into the fibroblast. After putting the fluorescein as nanocapsules, polyacrylamide nanocapsules, the cells illuminated. And so we published for the first time in 1977, the first paper in Phelps Letters showing that you can use nanocapsules as a lysosomotropic carrier, which was in honor of the Nobel Prize of Christian de Duve. So Michel Roland, who gave me the freedom to do what I was willing to do, Christian de Duve, because he was a big guy discovering the lysosomes, and of course Peter Speiser, because I did the first experiments in his lab.
Yeah, fascinating. It's more than story, it's history. It's history of nanomedicine for sure. I mean, I did my PhD in nanovaccines, so obviously the Speiser and Kreuter papers are key. That we all read that, I think. We have to know where we came from. We're wrapping up. Thank you so much, Patrick, for this really interesting conversation. I could stay here for hours talking to you. I'm sure we'll have a chance to catch up again in Bologna in person.
In Bologna, of course.
Which will be great.
Okay.
Which will be great. So just if you want to just leave a message, a final message for the members before we go, then I give you the floor.
Especially once again for the young people.
Yes, exactly.
So I would say first, avoid trends. This is very important in research, but have passion for research. Think out of the box. This is also very important in research. Be enthusiastic and do never get discouraged, because in a research career, you know better than me, of course, you have always experiments which are not working.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for the chat, Sarah. It was very nice.
Thank you, Patrick. It was very good. And it's a really good message. Never get discouraged. Thank you very much. See you in Bologna.
See you in Bologna, Sarah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.